Hello.
Oh, wow. We're using our iPad today. It's a whole new thing. And we decided to be outside because why not? Today, actually this month, Lee's having coffee. I'm having cucumber water. See my little cucumbers? This month, our theme is relationships. And the most important relationship that we have is a relationship with ourselves. We're very programmed to think that our relationships are based on other people and how other people are responding to us and what's going on with them. But the truth is, the most important relationship is all about what's going on within us. And when we tap into our own self-love, how we are really feeling about ourselves and being really honest about our values, the ego's role in how we show up in life and how authentic we're being. When we really tap into that and we really nurture ourselves, our relationships will all improve, and we'll also be able to delineate which relationships are healthy for us and which relationships are really, really great lessons, and maybe it's time to step in a different direction with them.
A man's point of view.
Yep.
Well, let's say my point of view. When you talk about, it's like, oh, we need self-love and things like that. It sounds a little, and you talk about things like you must have a relationship with yourself. I mean, unless you're very spiritually minded, which I am getting to that point now. It sounds a little, just tell me what to say and what to do and how to improve my relationships. But here's the thing is, think about things, or people rather, that you really associate with or you really admire. And what you'll find is those people, like the one that comes to mind for me is Tony Robbins. And I know you might think he's a little rah-rah and out there, but he's very spiritually minded, and especially lately. And the one thing that I find when I watch him is his congruency. What that means, or my definition of the term anyway, is that he's congruent with what he's saying and how he's feeling. And that to me is the key. We see so many people who are successful, quote unquote, financially or physically, they got this amazing physique, they got this amazing house, they got the great toys, and we always say, at the end of the day, you can't take your toys with you, but it's a nice thing to play with at the time. So anyway, they got plenty of toys, but they're not happy. And that to me is where the relationship with self comes in. Because when you have that congruency, you're already happy, you're already safe and secure. We all need, what do we need? We need love, we need compassion, we need safety, and we need comfort. That's what we all need. We all need these things. And this is where the inner child, if you like, work comes in. Now, again, I take a somewhat different approach, because we're not of the mind of you need to delve in and go and dredge up horrible memories and things like that.
Yeah, and relive them, because when we relive horrible memories, our body actually has that same chemical output. We have that same experience as though we were actually going through it again.
It's
so
somewhat
we physically,
worse, in fact.
Yeah.
It's actually worse, because when you relive a memory, you dramatize it.
Right.
You
so we
literally
physically
make it
go
worse.
through it again. We physically feel those horrible feelings. We put out those same chemicals that we were putting out when we were feeling really awful. So there's no value in reliving something that didn't bring us any value to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So think about this, about the age-old analogy. We use it all the time, and that is, if you're on an airplane, right, and the plane's going down or something like that, suddenly the oxygen masks drop down. Well, this is what we're talking about in that sense. You must put the oxygen mask on yourself first. It doesn't matter how committed you are, how motivated you are to help others or build a relationship or something. If you've got no oxygen, it does not matter. Like you.
Well, yeah, I was saying, we were talking about, if you are flying first class, right, and you're in these incredible gorgeous chairs and you're lying back and they're giving you the champagne and the caviar and you can watch any movie you want and they're bringing you a hot towel and it's so fabulous. But you can't breathe, there's no value in that first class ticket. So that's really how we walk through life. If we're not breathing, if we're not already full, how can we possibly enjoy any experience that we have? We could have the most loving, amazing person around us, but if we're not capable of having that own self-love so that we can accept that love from somebody else, it will never work. We will find problems in the relationship, not because of the other person, but because of our own feelings of inadequacy, which of course are not true. It's just a story that we keep reliving.
Right.
And that's why it's so very important to feel compassion for ourselves and feel this fullness. I call it fullness because that's the feeling.
Right.
And
fulfilled life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I check in with myself when I'm feeling uncomfortable about a person or a situation. The cool part is I get to check in with myself and say, okay, what's going on with me? Where am I feeling uncomfortable? Where am I not full? And where are these insecurities within me? And once I get to that space and I free that up, everything just becomes so much easier. And I'm everything, really.
Yeah. And a lot of people think, well, that's selfish. I can't focus on me. I got to focus on others. I've got too many things going on and too many people relying on me. But people misconstrue the idea of selfishness. You know, it's like you're selfish means you don't care about others. Well, selfish doesn't necessarily mean that. What I think of selfishness is to take care of self first, to put the oxygen mask on the self first. And when you are filled, then you're going to be overflowing, in which case you are never focused on yourself. You don't need to be. You're fulfilled. So then you can give your whole attention to others. And that's a much better and much more, a much better relationship that you could ever have with people. Two half people do not make a whole person.
No, and we see
you
that
make two
so
half
often.
peoples.
Yeah.
So we believe it's the most important task that you can ever undertake in order to have a fulfilled life.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I'm aggravated with Lee, I know it's not Lee. It's all about me. It's something within me. So
I'll remind her of that next
no.
time.
Well, I know that, and I know when you're aggravated with me that something's going on with you. So
Right.
we know this. It makes it so much easier to repair what needs repairing when it's not about trying to fix somebody else.
Right.
When it's just about having compassion for yourself, because so often there's nothing wrong with us. You know, I was with a client over the weekend and she said, oh, well, this person's broken. And I said, I don't agree with that because we don't see people as broken. Nobody's broken.
No.
We have experiences in life where we have discomfort, but we're not broken. We all have innate well-being.
Within. And here's our take on inner child. We believe that the inner child is almost like your ego. It's constructed from your childhood. Your ego is constructed from your childhood, and that's where the problems tend to lie, in the fact that you're looking through the eyes of a child. Now, it can serve you to look through the eyes of a child in some cases, but for the most part, in our adult life, it's not such a good idea to let the child rule your life, basically, and take a hold of your ship. So this is where we focus on the inner child, and we do it somewhat differently. I was saying about an analogy. I don't know if you've heard of TFT, so it's thought field therapy. And this was invented, or if you like, put together by a guy called James Callahan. And it was excellent. It worked on tapping in certain areas of the body, like pressure points. And what would happen is it would relieve certain emotions, like anger, sadness, guilt, shame, that sort of thing. And what happened was, one of his students, and I can't remember his name, but he came up with EFT. And what he thought was, well, if we're hitting certain places for certain emotions, and what would happen is you're like unraveling or peeling the onion. what would happen is then you'd have to tap on and for another part and another part, you'd be peeling the onion. Well, with EFT, he said, why don't we just hit all of the areas, and then it's a surefire win, isn't it? You're going to hit the areas that you need to. And so as a consequence, I mean, some people still do EFT, which has its place, but for my mind and a lot of people, EFT just works more efficiently or quicker, let's say. And that's the way we see the inner child. It's like you can go back and you can try and figure out this time happened and this emotion and why this was created and what was happening for that. Well, that's, to my mind, that's a little bit like TFT. It can be effective, and a lot of people would like to do that and like to know. But if you're not really bothered about, going back there and delving into the past, what you can do is the faster version, and that is just giving yourself or your inner child, and just by going within and nurturing and giving your inner child love, compassion, safety, and security.
Yeah, and it's actually as simple as giving yourself a break and having compassion for yourself. I was beating myself up over something last week, and Lee and I had this conversation, and I realized if I were talking to a child, if a child was saying to me, oh, I said this and I shouldn't have said it, maybe I should have said something different, I would say to the child, it's okay, you did your best. That's for where you were, for what your thinking was at the time. You said exactly what was on your mind, and that's fine because that's where your thinking was, so you did your best. And that's beautiful. And now you get to learn from that. That's how I would treat a child. So why am I treating myself any differently? Why shouldn't I have that same love and compassion for myself? And we had that conversation because I have my own personal coach, and I felt so much better. And what was so funny was the situation that I thought I created didn't even exist. It was completely in my mind. So here I was making myself, worried about what I had said for no reason, because the situation was actually fine. But what I got to learn from it, which is why it was so beautiful that it happened and I shared it with you, was I got to learn that there are no mistakes and to have compassion for myself. And I got to remind myself to treat me with love and compassion and understanding the same way I would treat a child. Because what does a child need? A child needs to be heard. A child needs to just have that loving space from a parent or a guardian or a friend, and to be acknowledged. They want to feel important, they want to feel acknowledged, and they want to feel like everything's okay. Yeah. And that's what we need to do for ourselves. It doesn't come from outside of us. It comes from within us. Everything that we need comes from within us.
So how we go about this? I mean, there are lots of ways, but the key is, I mean, if you have, I don't know if you would have this, I actually don't, but if you have a picture perhaps of yourself at like maybe 4 or 5 years old, what you can do is have that picture and then you get a really good imagination about your inner child. You imagine that inner child as if you're talking to that inner child. So you simply give that inner child that love, that compassion, that safety and security in whatever way you want to do that. You can look into a mirror if you like and imagine yourself as that inner child. What we tend to do is like hypnosis, self-hypnosis, just visualizing. Imagine the child there and just giving that child the love and compassion that they need. The other thing you can do is write a list. Write a list of how you would nurture yourself. If you were looking after a 5-year-old child, for instance, or if you have a 5-year-old child, how you would treat them. Treat yourself. Now, you're not going to, get a lollipop or whatever, but, just how would you nurture yourself if you were looking at yourself as that 5-year-old child? How would you have fun? How would you be a bit more playful in your life? How would you treat yourself and give yourself that love and that safety and security?
Yeah, and not take things so seriously, because I just said to Lee, everything passes, everything resolves itself. We tend to take things so seriously and get so involved and get so upset over things that will pass.
Right, which by the way, is not necessarily wrong. I just want to caveat that, because we need both parts. Because if we're all playful and childish, well, we can also get into trouble. So that's the caveat. I appreciate we do adult things as well. So we want to be able to steer the ship, if you like. But who's actually running the engines and so on is our inner child. So we want to guide them in the right way, but comfort them at the same time. So that's the absolute key. So think about this. Please post any questions that you might have, and think about how you can really nurture your inner child today. And we'll speak to you soon.
Yes. Well, actually, we'll talk to you on Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
Yes,
Okay.
Thursday we have a date. Oh, let's
Alrighty.
figure out how to.
Now we've got to figure out how to turn this
this
off.
thing off.